amigos, I hope you're doing well. I haven't posted for a while. I've been on tour with my band Calidad. We've driven from the Gold Coast in Queensland all the way up towards the northern part of Australia, a place called Cooktown, past Cairns. It's well over 1,000 kilometres. Who knows how exactly far we drove, but had a really good trip up and down the Australian East Coast. And I'm back now and I'm here to show you a lesson that I think you're going to enjoy. I think this is a good one. Basically, we're going to play the Andalusian cadence, which we've used a lot of times before, but we're going to do something a bit different with it. The chords, we're going to use A minor, G, F, and E. The interesting thing about what we're going to do, the unique thing and the point of this lesson is that A minor chord is going to be paired with the A string of the guitar, G chord is going to be paired with the G string of the guitar, the F chord, we don't have an F string, so we're going to talk about that separately. And the E chord, we have two E strings on the guitar. So that's kind of the point of today's lesson, is that we're going to use the strings that match the chords. Without further ado, let me play for you for a second, and then let's get stuck in a little bit. So all I did then was play an A minor chord, and then what I'm going to call today, we're going to call them partial scales. This is something that I do a lot. On the A string, I'm going to go 0, 2, 3, 5, 7. They're the only notes we're going to use. I call it a partial scale because it's kind of like half an A minor scale. A note, B note, C note, D note, E note. As always, tabs for the lesson will be on my Patreon page. Thank you to those loyal Patreons who support the channel. Tabs will be on the Patreon page and what we call a deep dive, where I go into a bit more detail. So A, B, C, D, E. That's the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth degree scale notes of A minor. It's a partial scale because I'm not going to use the 6, 7, and the octave. Even if you learn nothing else from this lesson today, these partial scales, I use them all the time in my playing. I simply run from the root note to the fifth, and I play the notes in between. So if you've never used a partial scale, obviously millions of people have done it before, but no one really taught it to me, so I'm not going to claim to have invented it, but I did stumble across it in my own playing myself. It's based on arpeggios and triads, because if you go like 0 through 7, there's a lot of action happening outside. There's people yelling, there's motorcycles. It's usually a pretty quiet neighborhood, but something's going on out there. 0 through 7 would be a arpeggio, and I just include those second and 5 fret notes. Our beautiful camera woman has a cough. Marianka, my beautiful wife, she's coughing a bit today, so I hope you're alright, and please forgive the coughing on the thing. We're sending her best wishes. Okay, so a G chord, the partial scale of G major, a G major partial scale, 0, 2, 4, 5, 7. We're going to use that partial scale, so that's 5 notes. We're going to improvise in any combination that we want. There's no reason you have to play every note, you could just play a couple. That's even more partial, isn't it, if you just play a couple notes? And of course, if you know the scales, of course you can play at the full scale. Of course, everything I show you is just a guideline. Now, F doesn't have, there's no F string on the guitar. Of course, you could use an F scale. You can test it out. But what we're going to do for the purpose of brevity today and simplicity, F, you can just strum the chord. We can literally leave it at that for today. And in the Patreon deep dive, which I'm going to post on Patreon immediately after this YouTube lesson, I will give you some ideas for the F. That's not because I want to hold all the good ideas from the YouTube, simply because I don't want this lesson to go for 2 hours. E chord, we have not 1 but 2 E strings on our guitar, and a beautiful partial scale with the Phrygian dominant 0, 1, 4, 5, 7. And that's brought us back to our A minor chord. G chord. I'm just improvising with those partial scales you just learned. F. I'm just going to strum. And E. So that is the end of today's lesson. Anything you know you can incorporate. Of course you don't have to, now the dogs are going crazy and the kids, is really something going on today. It's a public holiday, maybe that's what it is. Anything you know, A minor licks, A minor scales, chords. This is of course just a guideline, and it's just something, all my lessons, they're just designed to kind of give you a bit of inspiration and get you to pick up your guitar and go, hold on, that's interesting, that's cool. And before you know it, you're off doing your own thing. So that's what I'm here for today, and I hope this little bit of information about matching the open strings to the chords has been slightly useful for you. If you want more, come over to Patreon. It's a few bucks a month, you get the tabs, and we go deep, because on Patreon I assume you've watched and practiced this lesson, and then we can pick up on a more detailed level having done the groundwork here on YouTube. Thank you so much. See you soon.